Welcome everyone to Weekend Escapades. We have found our way to Arizona, and we found this gem, Chloride, ghost town, living ghost town. Population says back in 2020 it was about 230 people, and it seems that would be about right. This is an amazing location. We had to stop in here at the local mercantile store, and what they have outside there is pretty interesting. One of the things we found is it has a working payphone. Now, I have not found a town that has a working payphone, and we'll see that coming up, but a lot of fun things to see. A lot of stones, rocks, a lot of antiques, old stoves, and the buildings in this town are amazing. And right here at the Mineshaft Market, they have a actual working payphone. It's the first one we've seen. We go to a lot of little ghost towns, and here in Chloride, it is an actual working payphone from Frontier, a citizens communication company. And welcome to Cyanide Springs. Now, this is a little area here where they have some gunfights and some things. Now, the gunfights are kind of seasonal, as I was told, that the gunfighters go away, and they are kind of snowbirds, and it gets a little bit hot for them in this area. But one of the things about this town, Cyanide Springs lives right in the middle of it, but this area was once served by the famed Butterfield Stage and the Santa Fe Railroad. And we're going to take a look at the railroad station coming up. Not many of these towns have a railroad station that's still standing, and I can't wait to share it with you. Entering the dead-ass saloon with the old swinging doors, and the old piano right inside. And what saloon wouldn't be complete without a buffalo head right up there? The old bottles, and the old bar. It's a great place for an outhouse right here next to the saloon and the old schoolhouse. You always need to put a bar right next to a schoolhouse, or wait, that's not supposed to happen. But here in Cyanide Springs it did. Right there. And this is where the sheriff would hang out if he was going to. That's a little creepy. Must be the head to that one right there. Just the hat's left. Now, you don't want to lose your head in Cyanide Springs. It looks like somebody did. That's a nice old chest, that's for sure. Maybe appropriate in the Old West. You got a doctor's office right here. And then back then doctoring wasn't that great, so the undertaker's right next door, just in case. And of course, an old western town's got to have a little minor cemetery, like a Boot Hill Cemetery. Look at that, an old piece of wire hanging up there, and an old boot curled up from the dry heat out in the middle of the desert, right next to some cactus and a satellite dish. There is a Boot Hill Cemetery. Now, there's no shortage of buildings here in Chloride. This one happened to have the frame to an old swing set. You can still see where they had the swing set, or where the marks were, where they hung the chains or the rope for the swings. And this building here was located right next to it. Still looks like it's in good shape, but definitely dated back. Again, this town has buildings all the way from 1860s, and it had a fire here in the 1920s that wiped out about 70 to 80% of the buildings in this town. And this was an old outhouse here. Said women's restroom on it, but who knows? And again, across the street, more buildings dated back, and amazing to see all these old buildings here in town. A lot of people still live in some of them, and some are just sitting there hanging out on the streets. So we were told here by one of the local people here in town that this is the old Chloride schoolhouse, and what they've done is it looks like they've moved it here and blocked it up, unless this was the original location, but it is mapped out and says it is the old schoolhouse. You can see it's got a little bit more modern door on it, which is okay. Hard to keep those old wooden doors intact, but at least the building is still here. Looks like they might still be using it a little bit. They had some electricity run to it. But that is the old schoolhouse, according to what they tell me here in town. You can see the old siding on the building. Old Chloride Schoolhouse here in Chloride. This is Forgotten Treasures. It lives inside the Lorig house, and that's Jennifer. She has a lot of items that were found here in the town and a great gift shop. You need to check it out when you're in town. You can see out front, this is all made out of bottlenecks. Look at that, it's interesting. Kind of some garland of glass. Very interesting. A nice old building. Just love the way this town is put together. So much to see that just says old mining town. Just absolutely love it. So railroad tracks right here in Chloride. They've got a couple of railroad ties, as you can see, and the tracks laying on top. And then some cement here. More railroad ties. That would have went right out in the desert. So you can see they had a railroad that ran through here. And when the railroad did, you'll see the ties, they come up here as well. Now this looks a little narrow on these railroad ties. So I'm gonna see if I can find an old picture and include it to see if it actually ran right through here. But take a look at this beauty. This is the old Chloride train station. And this is in really good condition. It's got the old freight door over here on the side. Another freight door over here. Railway Express Incorporated. And then a giant door there. Maybe that was for like freight wagons or something in that old building. You can see the old wood door that was incorporated in the tin. And the way this windows stick out here. Now, I don't know for sure. I'll see if I can find an old photo. It looks to me like that might have been where you would buy tickets. Like a ticket window, the way it comes out. And the old signs are still on there. And you gotta be kidding me. As we see in a lot of these ghost towns, an old bed frame, an old bed spring frame has made its way back outside of a building, laying in the dirt, and this one is being used as a fence. And look at the back side of this one. All the tin for the doors. I'm gonna go around this fence and take a look and get a better look for you. So this is the, looks like this would probably be the front side where the tracks maybe came right through here. I wish there was a crack open where we could see inside just a little bit. Maybe I can find a way to see if we can look inside. So right here in Chloride, the jail established in 1860, as you can see by this finely painted rock. I'm gonna step up here, and I was told that it's open, no lock. The wind just blew that open. That was a little creepy. Here it is. Hope we can see. There we go. Got to get away from the light of the windows, and then we can see the old locks on these things. My goodness, that's one of the old locks. That thing's just about rusted shut too. Old tin roof in it. Up there. An 1860s jail, and we're inside. That's kind of rare. The old bed. And there's your source of heat. Really what they needed back then was a source of air conditioning, because I'll tell you what, it's pretty hot today as well. Old desk. What's left of the old chair. So it's a 2-cell jail. And again, not only are those windows barred, as you can see, I'll show you outside, but those windows are barred and they have metal screen over the top and they're flat ironed. And look at that outside wall, it's starting to crack right there. So hopefully they're gonna secure this and it'll stay up, because I would love to see this stay here for much longer. And these doors are just, that's some heavy iron there. Let's walk around the back and see. This would have been one of the windows here. They've got it kind of covered up, it looks like. Actually, there is no window there. That was just like one of the old doors. But they've got metal over the windows. There's definitely bars behind this grate. And look how they put the iron over the windows. So that's actually part of
of the design of the jail. So there's bars there, and then they've put those big pieces of flat iron across here and bolted them into the walls, and then framed it with the wood with those old nails. It's hard to believe they used to probably put old drunks and criminals in here, maybe some old prospectors that were stealing. But other than that, an amazing old jail here in Chloride. Now, we didn't even know this was up here on the road, but kind of cool to find it. The old prospector right there. Doesn't look like it's open. Maybe that was a restaurant or something. It just says the prospector on it. And I don't see much happening there. But a really nice old West style building. And then right here, this is the center of town that I'm standing in front of. You got a restaurant and a motel, a shady lady attic, antiques, and some property for sale. Some old buildings down that direction you can see. And also right here, this was the old gas station. Love old gas stations. It's got an air conditioner in the window. Maybe somebody's still using it as a shop. Don't know for sure. But this is the Chloride post office right here. This is on their map of historic things.
As it should be, because this post office is the longest running post office in Arizona, and it is still operating today.
And that is Antiques Collectibles. Cactus Cowboy. Antiques. I'll take that photo for you. I'll take it for you. One time there was a lot of antique stores here. Again, they're just closed right now, and it looks like they've got a food bank that they're running out of here. But it really does have the Old West vibe. You can see this is all part of the downtown area where I was standing in the middle of the street right down there on the left. And right over here, this is a really interesting building. Look at the hay on the roof of that building. So I know that's a good natural insulator, but if you get some tall cows, they're gonna eat your roof. So you got some hay on that one. Interesting little building right there. And a nice little wall that goes around it. And it says it's called looks like the Rose Cottage. That is a really interesting looking building. Now again, in Chloride, there's no shortage of these buildings. And I don't know the history of all of them. We talked to a nice lady in the store that gave us a bunch of information, but these are really cool old buildings. Look at the size of that Joshua tree. That is absolutely giant. And oh, cars coming by. Now look at this building. Love the design of this one. Bars on the window, kind of halfway up.
This just in. This is the Central Bank here in Chloride, and I had no idea that's what I was standing in front of. Just looked that one up. And that's what made it so interesting, with all of those bars on the windows. So standing here in front of Chloride Station, a little bit of information that back in its heyday, Chloride had almost 2,000 people living here. It almost became a ghost town due to the mines shutting down when all of the workers went to fight in World War II. Around the 50s and 60s, the town became a place where musicians and artists lived. Roy Purcell painted a lot of the murals, the Southwestern murals, and he was a Southwestern artist. You'll see those murals coming up. They're amazing to see here towards the end of the video. He painted these on the rocks and the mountains in the surrounding area. There's been quite a few movies made here. One of the famous, or a couple of the famous movies, include Jack Nicholson, The Rebel Rouser, and many other music videos. The town now is made up of mostly retirees and a lot of ranchers. And this is a great place to do that, as it's very laid back. And this town is open range, so all the land you can run cattle, and uh-oh, here comes a steer.
So when you're in an old west town, you never know when you're gonna run across a steer just walking down the road. And looks fairly friendly, but those horns could do some damage. So this is something that I love, is old gas stations. And just kind of look at the build on this one. You can see the 3-style pumps out front. And some of the old tracks that used to run through the railroad here in Chloride. They've got it going up and around the property. Nice old gas station right here in those pumps. I wish I could see how much it was per gallon back then, because I'll tell you what, right now, gas isn't very low. It's not very inexpensive. But when those pumps were around and working, it sure was. And for anybody who's a mechanic, You'll know what that is there. So that, to me, hopefully, if anybody wants to comment, let me know. But that looks like a lift to put a car on to work on, or it's like an old style lift to work on cars. And an amazing old BF Goodrich tires sign faded out on the side of the building. And this has kind of the tile siding on it. The old tar siding, sand. BF Goodrich tires and batteries. A lot of metal out in the backyard. Station that was right there. And look at these. These are amazing. These plants coming out of the ground. Look how tall those are. And blooming all the way up top. Those are a good 15, 16 feet tall. And right over here, you gotta watch it. These old ghost towns, you gotta look around. There's an old safe just sitting here on the side of the property behind this tree. Heavy duty old safe. And again, more metal art in the back, an old building. Love Chloride. This town preserves and have all of its old buildings right here in town. And again, I love the old gas station.
We're going to head out of town just a little bit up this dirt road, bumpy road, but it's okay to navigate. You can get through there with your car. And all these signs are painted on the rocks that say mural with these arrows to show you exactly where to go. To see these murals that were painted by Roy Purcell, who lived here in the community and did these large murals.
After following the road and seeing all the signs, we have found the murals about 2 miles up from Chloride. You'll find all these painted murals up here, brilliantly painted. Looks like just a mural of the old mining town itself. And then somebody thought they'd add some flames. Looked like they're unfinished. And maybe a giant foot right there on the rock. And there's more murals over this direction.
Roy Purcell's murals are named The Journey. In 1966, he began to paint on the 2,000-foot rock formation. This is in the Surbit Mountains. So what has happened here is they painted them and they faded a little bit, and his family and himself came back in 2005 and they repainted the murals with some help, of course, with family and friends, and added images using automobile paint so it'll last for quite a long time.
These are the Chloride murals, and there are some flies here. As you can see behind me, there's a tremendous amount up on these rocks. They're kind of a big deal in town. It's on their map of the town, and talk about what they do here. It is extremely hot here in the middle of the desert, and we hope you enjoyed this adventure to Chloride here in Arizona. And until our next adventure, goodbye from Weekend Escapades and Chloride. Every old mining town has a cemetery. This is the Chloride Cemetery, and the wind has picked up dramatically.